Radiant's pick.
Hello to the two fans and welcome! This is Chicago Ted coming to you with the Sudamerican Master 4
Radiant's
tonight.
ban.
It is going to be Pain Gaming taking on eKeepo and the playoff round number 1. Of course, I'll bring the brackets to you guys later. Right now, the draft is all that matters,
Radiant's ban.
and I am not alone tonight. To help me bring you this draft, we've got Android. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. Excited to be casting this game back in the Sudamerican Master Playoffs, and this one's going to be a heck of a match. Pan Game and eKeepo both performing very well here
10 seconds
in
to
the
go.
open brackets, and well, we've got things started off with a Death Prophet and a Tide Hunter. This is going to be a team fight massacre lineup if I've ever seen one.
I'm interested actually about this one. I mean, Death Prophet is a fun hero, but she can be countered in the mid lane. I mean, one of her main issues is if you focus her down in a
10
team fight,
seconds to
she
go.
ends up having a little bit of difficulty. I'm surprised they banned out and the Beastmaster and picked up the Tide Hunter for themselves,
Dyer's
just
pick.
because Beast tends to be one of those heroes that goes very well against the Death Prophet. But also, I figure they might be pulling out a little bit of burst damage to follow up, because even though Tide and Witch Doctor are great, the Ravage and the Death Ward, I mean, you need something more. You need to be able to, in the first 5 or 10 seconds of the fight, just get rid of the Death Prophet, or the Exorcism is going to be a little bit too much to deal with. So that's what I think Pain Gaming are going to go for
10
now.
seconds to
They've
go.
got their team fight. I was going to say a Lion would be great, but then
5
Lion got
seconds.
picked up by eKeepo. So at this point, they just need a little bit more stun,
Reserve time.
a little bit more single target focus, and I think they'll have this Death Prophet's number.
I don't know. I think even if Death Prophet doesn't have the most successful lane, as soon as she hits 6, as soon as she's rotating with her team, I'm assuming eKeepo are going to go for a nice old fighting team. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Chen picked up if they want to go for that early game Death Ball push strat.
See, I like the Lena, and I like Lena for exactly the reason I just talked about. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a support Lena, and they still run something like a Zeus in the mid lane, just because Witch Doctor's cask is a decent setup for a Light Strike array. All you really gotta do is stop them for enough time for Lena to be
10
able to
seconds
drop
to
the
go. Face
LSA
the
right on the
void.
target. But the Laguna Blade is the
Dyer's
thing that I'm
pick.
talking about here. You get rid of the Death Prophet right away, and you don't really have to worry about it. eKeepo will grab the Faceless Void, though, and this is a little bit of trouble for Pain, because the longer he can keep Pain Gaming in one place, the more Exorcism becomes a problem. And again, if you can't bring the DP down at the start of the fight, then things are going wrong for you. But the Faceless Void offers a little bit more
10
control,
seconds
so
to
that even
go.
if you do focus the Death Prophet down, you still have to be constantly
5
afraid of the
seconds.
fact that Faceless Void can just blink in, if he buys a blink, and then drop the chrono, and things are going
Reserve
south.
time.
So, again, I wououldn't be surprised if Pain grabs something like a Zeus, but I also think they might need something to either silence down the Faceless Void or stop him from getting that Chronosphere off, because the Tide Hunter Witch Doctor, it's great, but the Chronosphere puts a huge stick in the spokes of this team fight.
So we're going to see an off-lane Tide Hunter. Is this going to be a mid Lena 100%, or could it be a position 4?
Well, that's what I said. I think it's possible that it's the 4. If it's a support, it is going to be the 4 position, but it could be the mid. If it's not the mid, as I said, I think it might be something like a Zeus get picked up, but now that the Faceless Void's out, a Zeus might not be the pick here, especially with the Lion. The ganking potential from the support is way too high. But
10
if it
seconds to
is
go.
going to be a mid Lena, as far as the other support goes,
5 seconds.
I'm not entirely sure. I think you might be spot on a little bit. A Chen could be the right pickup.
Dyer's ban.
I know
So
what
for
you're
those
going
of
to
you that
say.
don't know, Skywrath Mage is my favorite hero in the game, and also my husband. So I'm really excited to see him picked up here by eKeepo. I think that's going to be a fantastic early game support, but he falls off really, really hard once you get past
10
20 minutes. He's
seconds to
essentially
go.
just a silence in a can. So eKeepo really have to win their lanes. They've got to get their level 6 early and rotate as a group, because Skywrath Mage, combined with the Death Prophet, combined with the stun from the Lion, good god, that can be so much damage, and eKeepo can just charge down a lane and leave nothing but destruction in their path, but they are certainly on a timer now.
So do you remember TI4, Annie?
10 seconds to go.
Yeah, I was there.
Remember the group stages?
Yeah, I watched them.
5 seconds.
Faces Void, Skywrath Mage?
I'm so excited, man.
This is a throwback
Reserve
right
time.
now, and The Skywrath is going to have so much trouble this game. Don't get me wrong. Slark is super good against this hero. All of them really are. I mean, you hit one Ravage, all you need is a Light Strike Array, and Skywrath Mage is dead. Like, that's how squishy this guy is. But Slark can hunt him down in the midst of a team fight, whether he goes Blink Slark or Shadow Blade. And then the Skywrath Mage becomes a non-issue. So it really now is becoming more and more reliant on this Faceless Void to get the Chronospheres off. And I mentioned how it's going to kind of hinder the Tidehunter and Witch Doctor a little bit. But now that the Slark is out, if you don't catch the Slark in that Chronosphere, then things are going to go really south. So this is going to be the main thing for Pain Gaming, is to keep the Slark away from the fight, or at least far enough away from the rest of his allies, so that
Dire
eKeepo
pick.
have to decide whether they want to Chronosphere the Slark or everyone else. And usually, no matter what you do, Pain Gaming should be able to outlast in that team fight. That is reliant on the fact that Death Prophet goes down early. But again, I am very confident they're going to be able to do that with the draft they have so far. This last pick, though, will give away whether this is going to be a mid or a support Lina.
10 seconds
We
to
talked
go.
about how we thought maybe there were other mids they could possibly go for.
5 seconds.
Other supports, again, the Roaming Chen might be their style here, or Enchantress, as she hasn't been
Reserve
banned
time.
out yet, but they could go for a jungler if this is going to be a last support pick.
I'm thinking maybe an Enigma could be in the cards here. Send the Lina mid, have the Enigma jungle up,
Very
and
possible.
combine that black hole with the Witch Doctor ultimate. That's dirty, but there also is just so much teamfight on the side of eKeepo. Even if the black hole goes through, if Death Prophet Exorcism is still flying, it's really difficult for Pain Gaming to fight into that. So I'm hesitant to say that I love eKeepo's draft, but I think they have the potential for some really strong early game death ball.
Yep. I'm just waiting on this last pick, honestly. I'm really interested to see exactly what they're going to do here. eKeepo, I think, are a little bit more definite that they got to
10
grab a
seconds to
carry
go.
last. And I could see them working with all sorts of carriers. I mean, this
5 seconds.
Morphling, the Spectre. Whoa, that's
Mid
Radiant's
Lina,
pick.
rotating
It is a
tusk,
mid Lina.
position 5 Witch Doctor.
This Tusk pick, I guess this goes right back to TI4. Tusk, he's essentially a savior, I think. He's going to be going in and dropping a snowball just to help whoever is in the Chronosphere, whoever is
Oh, I
being
love this.
hit by the light or the Mystic Flare. Clinks is an awkward pick. I'm not quite sure I like it because he can't quite kill a Slark,
Someone's having
can't quite kill a
technical
Tidehunter, and
difficulties.
can't quite kill a Tusk. Witch Doctor and Lina might be his only two targets. I think if he goes for the Silence build, he's going to have a little bit of an easier time. But if he goes for the minus armor build, there's going to be nothing to lock down Pain Gaming's lineup. And again, Witch Doctor and Lina might be his only two possible targets. Even Witch Doctor could be a little bit of trouble if he turns around Malefice, Cask, and Death Ward. So I'm not sure I'm on the Clinks boat just yet. But I'm willing to see, willing to wait it out and see if it
10
works.
seconds to go.
I think the reason I'm loving Clinks is because it's gonna get
5
kills. You're gonna
seconds.
spoon feed your Clinks kills early on when you have the Skywrath Mage, when Death Prophet hits 6, when you got the Lion following up with the Earth Spike. So I think Clinks will be able to scale well into the mid game, and that's gonna be what eKeepo need to stay strong, because the Skywrath Mage will fall up. Eventually the Lion will fall off. Death Prophet doesn't really hold well into the late game either, so I think Clinks is gonna be the raw damage that they need to carry themselves through the hard part.
Just realizing now, I did not tweet about this game. Oops.
I did. I tagged
you. Did?
you.
All right. So
Yeah.
I gotta go ahead and retweet that. The sweet
Oh, what a
potatoes I was
bird.
talking about, by the way, are done. They did finish. So
Oh, I'm so glad.
when
No
I,
more hungry caster.
when I'm done with this game, hopefully it doesn't go too long because then I'll have dinner. Some nice
You are
sweet potatoes.
so psyched about those potatoes, man.
I am. I was really worried actually when I started them about an hour ago. I was like, Shh, I've got a game to cast. I've got sweet potatoes to put in the oven. What's going on?
You
But,
are feeling the stresses of like a 1950s housewife.
Exactly. If 1950s housewives casted Dota.
You know, that'd be a cool profession. I could see myself filling that role. So we are going to be pausing here, our ceremonial pause, as we are going to go back into the game. Again, this is going to be a
Alright,
best of
carry
3
on.
between eKeepo and Pain Gaming, and it should be a good one. We're going to start things off with An awesome lineup with a Skyrath mage, so that's how you know it's going to be a series to remember.
Yeah, and Skyroth Mage, of course, being played by Bronx. This guy, I mean, a couple of these members of eKeepo I don't totally recognize. GIX and Kezia I've seen before, and they're fantastic players. I love them. But the others, they do seem to be new here. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this lineup excel. eKeepo have definitely been a very contending lineup for this tournament. They did fairly well in the group stage and offered a little bit of surprises. Paint Gaming, they're consistently a good team. They've been around for a very long time. A lot of the players still here. So I'm confident that they're going to be able to put up a fight. But this should be a very good matchup, as you said. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it rolls out, as the warding is kind of interesting from the Dire. They put one up in the safe lane, which is a little bit more standard, but then they're able to drop one inside of the Radiance jungle. What are you...
The dicks on the minimap.
Oh, wow. Talk about a production value, I guess.
So it's gonna be most likely a one-for-one rune trade. There's not gonna be a whole lot of contest. Unless Dire want to do something real crazy down bottom. They have the Tidehunter with the Anchor Smash. They're gonna rotate him down. Yeah, they're gonna be leveling up, or holding on to the Tusk level actually, so not gonna go for the snowball right away. This is gonna be pretty huge. The ice comes through. There's gonna be a huge amount of damage going through. There's gonna be 2 bounty runes going the way of the Dire, and now it looks like the first blood will be going as Tide ends up falling, so he gets a bounty rune but has to pay with his life.
Yep, Kezia is walking away from King RD. Will be able to get the air spike to save himself, but ice shards are coming out in 2 seconds, which means he's probably dead. I just got to keep an eye on here to watch that last strike, then move its way back up. Just missed it, but all right, as Bronx will also go down. Pain, they got the bounty rune. They lost first blood, but then got 2 follow-up kills for it. You know, is that worth it for the Radiant to get the first blood there? I'm not entirely sure, but the point stands. They definitely should not have missed out on that rune, and Pain Gaming will exploit eKeepo's indecisiveness.
Yeah, so things are starting off on a crazy note already. We've got Clink's pretty much solo laning down here. Looks like Lion will be scampering back to help support him, but Clink's against a Tidehunter. How does this match up? It seems like Clink's is just going to be able to harass Tidehunter no matter what happens.
Clink's will win this lane. I mean, Tidehunter is a great safe solo laner, especially when he's 1v1. But Clink's just does way too much damage. It's going to come down to a point where both of them are going to get experience. Jubilu might have to back up a little bit, but he will still stay within experience range. But it will come down to a point where GIX will just be able to last hit and deny completely freely and then excel on the experience. And then he just goes into the jungle, takes a creep, comes back, does a quarter of Jubilu's HP in 1 shot, and things go very, very south for the big old watermelon. So I think GIX will win this lane, especially now that he's got a support coming down to help out a zone out Jubilu. But at the moment, yeah, that's where it's going to stand. I think more of the eyes will be in towards the mid because Lenaro on this Lina should be able to win up against Bazura, especially if the supports have to go and rotate and be elsewhere on the map.
Pretty sure if you forgot like 8 syllables there in the Death Prophet's name, but shout out to Bronx now, man. Yeah.
I'm not gonna do the whole name. What is it? Bazari Tashka?
You just did the whole name after saying you're not gonna do the whole name, man.
I said I'm
No
not gonna do the whole
conviction.
name every time. Come on.
More dicks. That's good. Let's start this game off fun. I have to point out this was probably the most fun lobby as a caster that I got to sit in. These teams are very friendly towards each other, no animosity, just kind of having a good old time. And well, we'll see how the game turns out because now they are competitors, and this is a upper bracket or lower bracket game right now.
Upper bracket.
Upper bracket, yeah. 2 of the strongest teams in the tournament, I'd say.
Yep. And just to give you guys a little bit of insight, it is eKeepo who trains for their games by playing nothing but Overthrow. So I think that might put them a step ahead as far as preparation for this series go, because there's a significant lack of Overthrow on Pain Gaming's match history.
You know, that's where it all gets real. That's where it all goes down. So I think eKeepo might have the skills to pay the bills when it comes into just the raw damage, the raw madness of these team fights. And we are going to see some maddening team fights. I guarantee you that. I don't even know what's going on in the minimap anymore.
I've been trying to pay attention, but at some point you just
Are
gotta
those
kind
hairy
of...
balls or is that a caterpillar?
I'm gonna say it's a caterpillar, just because I figure that'd be a little bit more family friendly. So
Oh.
yeah, no. Let's go back to the lineups here because there's some interesting things that I'm not quite sure we covered totally with the draft, and I do want to point out though that of course I like the Faceless Void pick. I think it's going to be a great one for the team fight. We mentioned how he needs to catch either the Slark or everyone else. That's all done and past, but what does he do if he doesn't catch Lilkin in his Chronosphere? Because that, what the Witch Doctor can do, if even Zap catches one of his allies in the Chronosphere, the amount of damage that Lilkin will be able to output by dropping down a Paralyzing Cask and the Death Ward right outside of the bubble, it's going to be fantastic. So, I don't know. I think Pain Gaming, their lineup is looking really solid, and as far as team fights go, the early game might go the way of eKeepo because we mentioned the lanes will start to go in their favor in the top and bottom. But as far as the overall game goes, I'm thinking Pain Gaming is going to be able to outlast.
You say that, but we're going to look at GIX just going in and slamming down the Tidehunter. Has to put a point in the Kraken shell, but it's really not doing all that much against the raw damage of the Clinks. But up top, we are going to have Faceless Void get trapped by a Pounce, having to zip-zap away, and I don't know. In terms of overall momentum, what these lanes are going to do, it's very volatile. Oh, bottom.
Yep, we're going to see an attempt onto Jubilu's life, and this is exactly what we figured would happen. They're just going to send him right back. He'll stay within experience range as long as the creep wave stays close to his tower, but they're going to just keep him back. He's not going to be able to get that many last hits, or he's going to try for it, but yeah, he's taken a little bit too much damage, so he will turn around and back off once again. Mid lane, though, I think this pause is pretty good because that would have been disastrous to not see what's going on here. Bazuri is going to go ahead and drop down the Soul Siphon on Lunaro. The last punch, though, from King RD is coming through. And with 55 damage, he actually might not get the straight kill, but Lunaro is going to follow up on that, so they should be able to clean up the Death Prophet right here. That is to say if something really, really upsetting doesn't happen. But I'm thinking it's done for the Death Prophet as we come right back in. The punch will fly, and the last right click, yeah, there it is. So, Azurion pauses, and then immediately gets brought down.
I think he knew what was going on. He said his last rites. He held his breath and prepared for death. And, well, he's going to be coming back right away, able to go ahead and TP back into the lane. So it's really just the death gold and the 100 gold for their, or 75 gold for the TP that he loses.
Unless the support buys him a TP, in which case, it's not really all that much lost. So Zap on this top lane. Oh, okay, no. Maybe Jubilu will clean up Kezia inside of their jungle. That one's a little unexpected.
Yeah, I was really not expecting that one. So it's gonna look pretty good. Meanwhile, up top we are gonna have Faceless Void doing his thing. He's only level 2, so has had to spend a significant amount of time away from the lane. Oh, Skywrath Mage, my boy, going in, sniping down the courier with 660 gold worth on it.
Bottle.
So that's gonna be a significant loss for the mid. Having to taunt away with the chicken feet taunt as well. So that's a successful pick off for eKeepo.
Yeah, and that's Lunaro trying to bottle Crow, and you know how the empty bottle slows down that courier. Somehow didn't find the laws of physics there, but we won't talk about it too much. That will be Lunaro missing his bottle, and you can notice exactly after that, Bazuri is not going to hold off on any sort of harass, because everything is just going to demolish Lunaro's HP pool, and he can't regen off of it. Having that bottle taken away for 2 minutes is just crippling for any sort of mid laner that relies on spell spam and that relies on being able to sit through spell spam. So for the moment, Lunaro is just going to be hanging back, and you can see the babysitting from Bronx is going to not let up anytime soon. This is just how the mid lane is going to go. But looks like they might be rotating in King RD to make use of the fact that Keepo is playing this one very aggressively. I'm not quite sure they'll be able to get this kill. I think rather he'll just stack and stay close just in case Pain try or eKeepo try for a really, really heavy dive.
Yeah, I think the fights are stalemating out just a little bit. Up top, we could have some trouble as there's going to be 40R going through, popping out those spells, but Void's still feeling very healthy, caught between a rock and a hard place, but he's got the time walk available, so might just go in, take a couple swings onto the Slark, and get back to the safety of his own tower.
Yeah, Zap's in real no threat of dying. Bottom lane, though, Jubilu is going to chase down Kezia. The Anchor Smash does a lot of damage. The Ice Shards fly through, though, and they'll end up pushing Kezia away. It looked like they should have latched him, but sometimes that spell operates on a different agenda than the players. So Jubilu will back off for now. But that was a lot of damage coming from that single Anchor Smash. And yep, they'll go in again, this time with a Snowball. They've also got Lilken and a Dust for GIX. The Paralyzing Cask will have a bad bounce back to Creeps, and that will mean that GIX gets away alive. Of course, Kezia was there with the Hex to assist in that secured Slark, or Clinks. It's still just an incredible amount of luck that went into that one. The Paralyzing Cask bouncing the way it does. As we see mid lane, they'll dive once again, noticing that Lilken went down to the bottom lane. It looks like Lenaro should be safe for now.
Yeah, going back down to bottom lane, if Tidehunter had been able to skill that Gush instead of going for the second point in Kraken Shell or the third point in Anchor Smash, he would have gotten the kill on the Clinks. Yep. Do you still agree with Tidehunter's build? Because it's pretty common to skip over Gush, but sometimes you need a value point, especially up against slippery heroes like the Clinks.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to that whole hindsight's 2020 thing. Like, if he could see himself having to go into the top lane, yeah, no, there's no way Zap dies. I think that one's pretty set in stone. Unless he makes a super big mistake or tries to go in a little bit too aggressive, he's just not going to die up there. The Time Walk is too amazing of a spell, especially in a 1v1 lane. But we talk about the Tidehunter. Hindsight is 2020 there. And Jubilu, if you could see the future, yeah, you skill Gush, but at this point, you go for what you need. And a Kraken Shell Anchor Smash was just really good for the lane that he's had, being able to get the harass off on a low cooldown, low mana cost, and then being able to tank through all the damage coming in. I mean, you don't pass that up. So I do agree with this build. I think it sucks that he needed the Gush and didn't have it, but at situations like that, you can't say it's a bad skill build for something that he didn't expect.
Oh,
As
it's
a
about to get
Snowball comes
real.
in for the mid lane. Bazuri in a lot of trouble. There's Laguna Blade, but he's still alive. He might be able to sit through with the Soul Siphon, but King RT's Fist's a little bit too strong for him. They've also got the Light Striker around to Kezia, so they make quick work of the Lion. A 2-for-0 for Pain Gaming in this mid lane, and a 1-for-6 overall as Pain. I mean, I can say they're snowballing a little bit off of this early game. We can take a look at the graphs to confirm. And yeah, we're closing in at about 2k lead for both gold and experience. So very well played for Pain for the first 10 minutes of this game.
That's really unfortunate, because although it looks like a relatively small lead in the early game, they're going to be losing. The Ravage coming through. Skywrath Mage, oh man, it looks like it is going to be the Death Prophet as well. The Snowball comes through, gets the stun, and looks like King RT is going to get Soul Siphoned up. But the Dragon Slave doing enough damage to finish off the Death Prophet. That's her second death in like a minute. Oh man, Pain Gaming are starting to snowball. They're all low. They all got to get back, but that is so worth it. And back to what I was saying earlier, even though eKeepo not feeling super behind in terms of overall gold and XP, it's just going to get worse because Pain have a lineup that can scale way better into the late game.
Yep. And honestly, I mean, their lineup, as we said, was really aggressive. It was going to be able to outlast, and I'm surprised, honestly, with how well Jubilu was doing in the bottom lane, but that rotation that he just made in the mid was perfect, because what was happening, Pain was pressuring the tier 1 tower, and eKeepo, recognizing that there's only a couple of heroes pressuring, might have been able to exploit some positioning error that they were noticing from Pain, but the issue for eKeepo was Pain was expecting their Tidehunter to come in, and Keepo, I mean, didn't recognize that threat. So the Tidehunter comes in on a very early rotation and secures a couple more kills that Keepo were not expecting. So a brilliant play from Jubilu and Pain overall to bait that one out as they get the tier 1 plus a whole lot more, and they all are able to benefit off of that one. So yeah, I'm really surprised with how well their lanes went, but I definitely expect more of the same to continue unless Pain make a really big mistake.
Yeah, so you're putting it down to Pain making a mistake. If you're eKeepo, how do you put your heroes together? What kind of team fight do you look for? Do you start grouping up as everyone has their 6, or, well, some people have their 6. Death Prophet opting not to go for the Exorcism. Is that?
It's to be expected. Honestly, I don't know if they figure Pain are going to be solo or team fighting more often, because this is a build that I think he's worried more about farming and getting solo pickoffs, because Exorcism is more of a pushing team fight spell, right? So they could be expecting the Chronosphere to only need the Mystic Flare to follow up because they only bring down 1 or 2 per fight. But I don't think that's how it's going to go, and I'm not quite sure I agree with the lack of Exorcism because of that. Although it will make up for it because he's got level 7 and should be able to increase his experience very shortly. Still, though, eKeepo need to be prepared to fight, and I think that's how they maneuver into the next couple of minutes of the game, is get the level 6 in the Skywrath Mage and get the level 6 onto Kezia. Because with those level 6s, you're guaranteed 1 kill per fight. And as long as you can bring down a high priority target like the Lina, like the Slark, then you might be able to win that fight off the back of a good Chronosphere. But if you don't get those level 6s up soon, then eKeepo just can't fight, and Pain will continue to take map control, continue to find pickoffs, and starve Keepo out of this game.
There's going to be a smoke gank coming up from Lenaro and King RD. They're looking for something. King RD still doesn't have a 6 and no Walrus Punch for crazy lockdown, crazy damage, but Lina, she's got that Laguna to absolutely punish whoever walks in front of her, and it looks like it might end up being the Void if they walk that way. King RD smoke pops. They know someone's here. They are going to pop down an Observer Ward and a Sentry, making sure there's no way he gets out of that one.
Yep, and they'll snowball right in. The Electric Array is a little off the mark, though. They weren't quite stacking their stuns effectively, so Zap is able to get away. Great reaction time from him as well, just to get himself out of there. But still, the smoke gank unsuccessful. That is still going back to the point we were making, how Pain are going to continue to look for kills like that. The Observer Sentry was an interesting play. I think they dropped the Sentry just to be sure that after their smoke had popped, there was still no vision of them to get that kill, but it was rather unfortunate that they found who they did. If it had been the Slark, they would have gotten that kill 100%. So, top lane, GIX is going to scout out 40R. I'm not entirely sure he's going to be able to get this kill. In fact, there's most certainly... Actually, no, they have the silence coming in from Bronx.
Yeah.
No, there will be a paralyzing cast. Death Ward comes down, and Bronx will fall shortly thereafter. A support for a carry, though. Definitely a trade that Keepo are not upset with taking. And I think Pain were greatly overestimating just how tanky their Slark was, and also how much Littlekin would have been able to follow up. So, great play from Keepo, trading away their support, and ultimately getting themselves one more up on the board.
Did Skywrath have to die there? It seemed like he just made a couple...
Hold on, Kezia, bottom lane. They're looking for the Light Laguna Blade. They end up popping out into Bazuri. They'll also come down with a Ravage. They might be able to get this kill. The Ravage actually gets Kezia on the backlines. Bazuri also will fall. Pain grabbing 2. They can back off now and not lose anything, but they want more. They want blood. They want Bronx. Light Strike Array does connect, and Bronx will go down. Jubilee with the anchor smash. We talked about just how much damage it was doing so far. Top lane, or at least in the river, King RD trapped in the Chronosphere. The first usage of the game will end up working in their favor, but for a Tusk, not the best kill. Still a little bit of gold in their pockets, a little bit more in the bank account, and maybe that'll help them out for the next couple of minutes, but still, they're writing on the wall. 3-12 as Pain Gaming take a pretty sizable lead.
It's looking pretty miserable for eKeepo. Their strategy was get in the early game, have some great fights, just push down the lane, be an unstoppable force, and well, Skywrath Mage, he's 1-4. He really needs to be the one being the aggressor, going in, spamming out the damage, but he's just too squishy up against a lineup with a Lina that can really punish him from afar, and a Slark that can get up close and personal and doesn't care about his damage. It's really hard for the Skywrath to do anything but feed.
Yep. Yeah, everything about Pain Gaming's lineup is bad for Skywrath Mage. I mean, if he's not feeling the pain right now, he'll be feeling it very soon. But I'm pretty sure 1-4-1, he's definitely having a bit of an issue so far. And that's not going to mediate anytime soon. Like, the Chronosphere drops, he drops his Mystic Flare, great. But he's going to die in that fight. If he participates in the fight, he's dead. So, at the moment, if they keep him alive in a fight, I'm thinking it's a good sign. But we'll have to see if they're going to be able to, as the initiation on the Kezia, they come out with Dragon Slave and the Laguna Blade committed. Kezia ends up dropping. The Snowball goes right into a Mystic Flare, but it's not quite enough. Death Ward, yeah, not really on the mark, but Bronx is still dead. Okay, yeah, he's still dead. That was a very interesting Ice Shards trap, but they had vision of him, whether just by being close in proximity or the Ice Frozen Sigil giving them vision. Whichever it was, Bronx is dead. And that, again, it's not a good sign, or at least it's pretty normal every single fight he's gonna die.
Yeah, I think the really big flaw in that fight was, yeah, you had Lion being the frontliner, but where was the right-click damage for eKeepo? Their Clinks was nowhere around, so eKeepo, they're taking these fights like they have this awesome initiation power, which they do, but then what's the follow-up? They know that Slark is just going to come in and start destroying. Tusk goes in with a Walrus Punch, and whoops, your Lion's dead, and your Skyrath's on his own. I don't know what the endgame there was for eKeepo.
Well, if Lion can time it pretty well with an Earth Spike, if he's the one getting snowballed, you're right. Just a punch, Laguna, he's gone. But if he's not the one being snowballed, then an Earth Spike can screw up Pain's fight incredibly well. I mean, you put 2 or 3, if the Tidehunter is in that snowball, because he hasn't gone for a Blink Dagger, obviously he's looking for the snowball for his initiation. The Earth Spike will be able to stop him, then you drop a Chronosphere, and things go wrong. But at the moment, it doesn't look like their follow-up damage has been quite enough. Of course, they've got the Chronosphere, but it's on cooldown for now, and even when it's not, you're only really guaranteed 1 kill for it. So if you bring down the Tidehunter, great. As unlikely as it is, the Tidehunter, he goes down, the fight's wide open for eKeepo. But if you don't kill him, or you kill someone else, you run the risk of an immediate Ravage follow-up, and then that's it. That's the fight for Keepo. So they really got to pressure this Tidehunter. They've got to bring him down first and chew through what seems to be an impossibly high 1,300 HP pool, which even with a Finger of Death, even with a Mystic Flare, will have to take a lot of coordination to actually burn out.
We're going to see Dire focus their attention here onto a tier 1. That's going to be their second tier 1 of the game. They already got bottom, so third, they got mid as well, because I'm blind. So that's going to be a pretty sizable map advantage, as all of the towers on the side of Pain are still standing and still relatively healthy.
Yeah, that's a pretty good thing for Pain Gaming so far. Important that you mention it, as we have a fight breaking out by the side shot. The Chronosphere will drop, and Jubilu does end up dropping. This is huge for Keepo. They still lose Bronx, as is tradition, but they might move forward and be able to grab a couple more. GIX, though, will back off, rightfully so. Keepo will respect Pain Gaming's lineup still, but a brilliant fight, and they do get the target that they needed to bring down first. That is exactly what they needed to do, and I mean, that'll help them out so much. Still, they lose 1, but come on. Were we really expecting Skyrath to survive?
I believe in him. I think Skyrath is the hero that we all need and should be played in every single game. But I agree with you in this point that he's doing pretty poorly, and that's not a fault of individual play. That's a fault of he's just too squishy for this draft, and he's not going to get better anytime soon. There's no way that he's going to start surviving. There's no item that he's going to pick up that keeps him alive. He's going to be a silence. He's going to be a little bit of nuke damage with the Mystic Flare, and then he's just going to continue dying. You just hope that he can get his spells off before he goes down.
Yep, 700 HP, 0 armor. I mean, they can just look at him and he's dead. So, and I mean, this is a double damage Slark. I'm pretty sure at this point, Slark can 2, maybe 3 shot him. Oh, the dust comes out. GIX, he gets caught way behind enemy lines, and there is no saving this Clinks. Immediately brought down, a brilliant dust as the bones just now fall back to the ground. Almost poetic, but a great sentry ward too, preemptively placed a while back. Will catch just a slight amount of vision of the Clinks. And just like that, Dire will go straight into the Roche Pit. It takes him a little bit of time to get him that low, though, and they don't really have any sustain to stay on it. So rather than risk going after the Roshan now, they'll back off, and they'll go ahead and farm and maybe exert a little bit of pressure on Keepo's side of the map. As Jubilu, he'll take a nice Ancient stack, and we talked about him needing the snowball for the initiation. It looks like actually he's still relying on it, not going for the blink, instead maybe going for the Guardian Greaves. But for the moment, I mean, this Tidehunter is rolling in cash. 4th highest, 5th now, but keeping up with the enemy mid laner on the net worth. The 2 highest, of course, are Pain Gaming's carry and mid 40R and Lenaro, both topping it out by quite a huge margin. So, I mean, things are looking pretty bleak for Keepo. Not to say they're out of it just yet. We've seen a couple of decent fights, and now they'll smoke up and look for another.
They got the Exorcism on the Death Prophet. They have a Yules to start things off as well, but it's just a matter of who do you get out of the fight first? Do you take out the Tusks so there's no snowball safeties? Do you take out the Slark so you're not getting smacked down from the back lines? Do you take out the Lina? She's the heaviest caster. So at this point, it's just going to be eKeepo kind of rotating around. Not going to find anyone just yet. They could end up finding the Tusk, but that'd be a deep way to go, and it's not a logical path.
Yeah, you can tell the Dire know that something's amiss. I mean, their positioning was great. Up in the top lane, Lunaru was way back into the trees. In the side shop, King RD was ready to snowball wherever he needed to go, and 4DR was there to follow up if there was a potential for a counter initiation. I mean, every single one of them was positioned really well for the smoke attempt. Not to mention they were nowhere in the path of the original smoke anyway, so there are some pluses to that, but Pain Gaming, they won't give anything to eKeepo now, and they might actually take something for themselves. There is a nice, juicy Faceless Void down the bottom lane that's ripe for the picking. However, eKeepo are rapidly making their way down south to try to follow up if there is an initiation. Make it more of a baited Faceless Void than anything. But for the moment, we'll just have a little bit of a Texas standoff as Lunaro will split push up the top lane, and 4DR will do so into the mid. No attempt being made just yet on the bottom. Oh,
Yeah, I think at this point, Pain know they're not playing on a timer here. Pain can take as long as they want. They can find out the best initiation in the world. Void, why are you so far out?
Yep, he could be dead. There's a snowball. There's a paralyzing cast. Light Sugar Ray. I mean, they spared no expense for that Faceless Void. I think Laguna may have been a little overambitious, but it's better to kill him than to risk the time walk. Yeah, just like that. So for the moment, they will be down without a Light Strike, but it'll be back up in about 45 seconds. Didn't really have that much mana anyway, so they will push in to the bottom tier 2 tower and maybe find a little bit elsewhere on the map. 4DR is there. He preemptively pops the Dark Pact, and that will go into the Shadow Walk. Kezia, though, with the Earth Spike, will preserve a little bit of time. TP's out. After the Hex, he might actually make it. He will. Oh, 4DR. He popped the Dark Pact maybe a little bit too early. I mean, he pops it just in to anticipate the immediate Hex or Earth Spike, but Kezia with a fantastic play of just holding on to it until the last possible moment after the Dark Pact had ended and getting himself away alive. So Lion pulling out all the stops to keep himself out. eKeepo, though, are still in a 12-kill deficit. The graphs showing a similar story, about 7,500 net worth advantage for Pain Gaming. Experience exactly the same. So eKeepo, I mean, it's not a terrible deficit to be at by 20 minutes, but it's certainly tough to come back from, especially considering Pain Gaming's lineup does still scale very well. And GIX, the one hope for eKeepo, I mean, he's got the Desolator done, but that's his only real major item.
Yeah, I mean, eKeepo, we said they're behind, but they don't really have the heroes to climb back up. I mean, the Death Prophet, yeah, she can get off a couple great fights and get some important pickoffs, Clinks as well, but your Void, he's going to be an initiation tool at this point. He just doesn't have the resources to be a hard hitter, hard carry. Lion, we've seen how great he is at sustainability, but he's not really bringing the damage just yet. Way far off from an Aghanim Scepter if that's the path he's going to go. And Skywrath Mage, 6 deaths, and he's just feeling a little bit flimsy, and there's not a whole lot that's going to change that.
I don't know if I'll say they don't scale at all. I do still think that there's a chance that if they get the good Chronosphere off, they bring Jubilee down at the start of the fight, they can end up winning that fight. And one fight, perhaps outside of the Roshan pit, or close to an enemy tier 2 or tier 3, might turn this game to a point where eKeepo just needs to do it a couple of times and they'll win without much drawback. So for the moment, I still think eKeepo have a good fight and one that can win, but a pickoff here would be disastrous. It looks like they've got it. Ice Shard's out. They've got all the vision they need, so they will bring GIX down almost as if it was easy as breathing out that they done the damage right there. So they'll go in for more. There is another Yule Scepter up, and Basarita goes down as well. 4DR continues to press as the tier 2 under a lot of stress. The tier 3 might be short to follow. A little bit of split push from Zap, but at the moment, without a Clinks, there isn't entirely a lot eKeepo can do. So I think they just let this tier 2 drop, maybe let a second one down in the mid lane. And at that point, they just have to concede Roche and weather the storm for the high ground push.
And how viable is weathering the storm here? What kind of high ground defense does eKeepo have aside from the Death Prophet exorcism?
Bonus here. I mean, the thing about pushing high ground is more often than not, you put yourself in a very vulnerable position. So if Keepo are able to either blink outside the pit, because Zap did end up going for that blink we talked about, so get outside the pit and catch Pain Gaming with their pants down. And again, we talked about the hierarchy of their targets, who they need to bring down first, so that one's been beaten to death. But if they can find a viable initiation onto the low ground, they should be able to follow up and take that fight and get that defense off. The issues that they'll face is if Pain Gaming go for a slow siege, or if they take a fight outside their base and get demolished. And they'll smoke up, which puts them in a risky position, but I think it's because they either want to contest the possible Roshan attempt, or they want to take Roshan for themselves. Neither one is really a good scenario for them, as if they go into the pit, they're risking Pain Gaming getting a huge initiation via Ravage Snowball, but they'll go for it anyway. And I don't think Pain Gaming have any idea this is going on. Actually, this is turning out to be the right call for them. They're doing so much damage with a double damage on GIX and the Desolator. And so far, they rotate in with 4DR, but they still have no idea this is going on. The Roshan will drop, and they'll beeline for the pit, but all the TPs, the mass TP out. Keepo, they get away with murder, and Pain are none the wiser.
That was really unexpected. I thought maybe just getting in the heads of Pain here, they thought that Keepo were too far behind to even go for something like that, but that's the kind of YOLO play that's going to bring Keepo back into relevance in this game.
Yep. Pain, though, they still have the Gem of True Sight, so they're going to deward a little bit. Now that Roshan's done, they have plenty of options to go clean up whatever Keepo left behind, but this high ground attempt that we talked about just got a whole lot easier, if it even happens. I mean, for the moment, I think Pain were definitely waiting for the next tier 2 to drop, a good team fight, and Roche to go for the high ground. But now they don't have one of those three things, and the next team fight's going to be that much harder because they're dealing with 2 Clinks instead of 1. Not to say it's impossible for them. They're still pretty far ahead. It's just become a point where if they get a good initiation on GIX, it might not be enough.
What do you think of Clinks' itemization here? He picks up the Desolator. Now it looks like he's going in for what looks like a BKB. I doubt it's going to be a Sange. I doubt it's going to be a Dragonlance. So is that how you would go, or would you want to see something viable, like maybe an Orchid?
That is 100% how I'd go. I think we talked about the Orchid. He may have needed a little bit more, but the time for a well-timed Orchid is well past. I mean, if he went for an Orchid right now, he would be a Pea Shooter with a Silence. And that puts him no higher than a Skywrath Mage. And at least Skywrath Mage has a huge amount of damage via his ultimate. GIX doesn't have that. So the Desolator is definitely the right call here. It gives him some viable teamfight damage. It allows him to stay relatively relevant in most of the scenarios. And it gives Keepo a way to bring down targets like Jubilu, who with 15 armor, even though he's got a high HP pool, you get any sort of minus armor on him and he will start to melt. So, and he isn't going for that Blink Dagger at all. He goes for the Aghanims instead. So he just tanks up more and more and more. Bringing him down is going to get harder and harder. Having the minus armor, especially with the Exorcism in conjunction, will definitely be the play. And I wouldn't be surprised if he continues down this path after getting his BKB, continuing to build into damage. I mean, I could see him potentially going for a Scotty, but if he doesn't, things like a Daedalus or even some cheap damage like a Medallion or even an AC right now could be a decent path for him to go. I kind of want him to see to get the Dragonlance, though, just because.
Just because you want something to be mad at?
No, because the Dragonlance will eventually build into the BKB, and he can buy a Butterfly after that.
I mean, fair enough. I just don't think it's exactly worth it. I don't think it's exactly necessary.
I'm just saying. It's only
up
900
top, we
gold.
have Faceless Void kind of just stoking in the scenery of the trees. He's been there for like a minute. I don't know if he's like hunting, like trying to be a stealthy predator or what, because it's costing him some much needed farm time.
It's a weird strategy here, because usually you do this with someone who can adequately split push. Because what this does is it, one, allows him to cancel a TP if need be, or to continue split pushing if no one reacts to this push. So it gives you some options to rat, to split push, and to outplay, but a Faceless Void isn't really good at that. So I'm not quite sure. Like, the Vladimir's would have been a decent push tool, but I don't think the Faceless Void is the right hero to try for that kind of thing. Maybe it clinks, but for the moment, yeah, he'll just TP out. So no harm, no foul. Sitting in there waiting, because what else is he going to do, right? Is he going to go to the jungle and farm? Maybe. Is he going to go to another lane? Probably not, because Keepo were farming the other lanes. So why not try for the split push, try for the outplay, and maybe see if you can force Pain Gaming to make a mistake.
Alright, so we are going to see Kipo kind of finding their stride here. They're crossing the river. They're going to be on the enemy side of the map for the first time in a long time. There's going to be a nice smoke up by eKeepo, though. It's going to be two ships passing in the night. In terms of rotations, I don't even know what's going on here.
Well, 40R's got a fresh Scotty with the Blink Dagger, with the BKB. I mean, he wants to fight. He wants to brawl. Because he knows the next fight he takes is going to be one he wins because of that BKB. And it looks like they'll find Kezia. Poor Lion. I mean, just getting caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. But
buddy.
at the very least, he scouts. Oh, wait, no, is that a TP Bronx? He's also dead. Did not have to die there. But a very awkwardly placed TP will secure his death. And GIX, it looks like he's going to get away alive. But that was just, again, the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, I mean, I think at that point, once Lion was like, oh shit, they're all here, there was nothing this Skywrath could do, and we just saw him get basically handled as he's so flimsy. There's still zero armor on that guy, and you want Skywrath to be able to go whatever item he's looking for, probably a 4-staff or an Atos at this point, but is it worth getting a Bracer or just something to help him not die immediately?
Always. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the double casual Bracer just because. But for the moment, it's come to a point where, again, the Skywrath Mage, he's going to die every fight. It's just rather unfortunate he's as low-leveled as he is, with only 800 HP at 0 armor. I mean, look at this.
Click.
3 hits, he's pretty much gone. 40R, he's not going to stop here. He goes for more. Lenaro's going to find a Laguna Blade onto GIX in the backlines. That is huge for Pain Gaming, as GIX is the one hero that Keepo couldn't risk dying. And that is after the Aegis has already gone down, too. In fact, it went down 20 seconds ago. So, wait, no, it went down more. It went down 1 minute and 20 seconds ago, so it's been well down. But that still is very bad for eKeepo, because now they're 30 seconds with their only source of damage in the grave. I mean, okay, fine. Bazuri's a little bit deeper in the bank, so maybe him going down would have been worse. But at the moment, it doesn't seem like Pain Gaming are able to really push off this when they get to Tier 2. But high ground's still a risk. No 40R! He just blinks forward. Bazuri, he's getting destroyed right now. Will self-Yules pop the BKB, but there isn't really much he can do to turn this one around. Instead, the BKB is gone, and now a Laguna played out, and Bazuri will get cleaned up. Lenaro, it's no chill, nothing left. He just goes in, gets the kill, and I don't know, eKeepo, they're pretty much on their last legs, if they have any legs left.
Yeah, I mean, Death Prophet, she bought out. She's going for the Octarine, picking up the Soul Booster, but that means no buyback for her. It looks like Lina, again, has no chill. They want to continue to initiate. They didn't have to spend the Ravage in that last fight. They still have the Witch Doctor ultimate as well. They've got the Walrus Punch. What is the brakes on Pain? What do they have to be respectful of?
High ground, always. I mean, and a BKB, but so far it seems Laguna Blade has BKB's number. 40R is going to pop his own. I don't think he cares too much about the low BKBs. All he's got to be able to do is pop a BKB just to get his Shadow Dance off. Like, that's the only reason he's got a BKB. And in that scenario, a lower cooldown BKB is better. So he's alright to just pop at the first sign of danger. For the moment, though, the BKBs on someone like GIX, is much more important. Also, the BKB on Bazuri is much more important. So them popping their BKBs, not as good as... Yep, GIX. He pops his BKB, but yeah, there is nothing you can do there. It's going to be a Chronosphere, perhaps a little bit too late. However, 40R will still go down. He drops the gem in the meantime, so a nice 1,600 gold swings, 1,700 rather, off the back of that fight. On top of them already losing 40R, but Lilkin could be next. They've got the Soul Siphon. They get him. Looking for a little bit more Jubiloos on the run, or more a slow-paced waddle. But the Yule Scepter will bring him back up. Bazuri trying to deal some damage off the Soul Siphons there as well. They got the Hex. He takes it off. Will turn around for the Ravage, but he's still dead. Bazuri taking a lie here. Will pop the BKB, but it is very poorly timed as he is already dead. Lunaro now on the run. The Snowball out. They're looking for Bronx. It's just by proxy. Skywrath Mage is dead as the Light Strike Array will stop Zap from chasing too much further. There is going to be a TP out from Kezia off the Hex on Lunaro, so he is secured and away. A 3-for-3, surprisingly enough. However, Lunaro's not done. 5 seconds to blink. If he can call this one right, he can Yule Scepter and get this kill, but no. A Blink Dagger from Zap will get him equally far away. I don't know. That was really good for Keepo, all said and done.
It was good for Keepo, but they chased just a little bit too far. The Death Prophet got pretty ambitious. I think she should have backed off after she got the kill onto the Witch Doctor. Skywrath Mage, of course, he falls in the fight, because that's just kind of how he does, but I think it's a case of Keepo. They had a good fight, they held their base, and then they just got a little too ambitious. They kept chasing Pain, and finally Pain respawned and were able to TP to their towers that are still very much up and get the return kills they needed onto the Death Prophet.
Got it.
Yeah, I can't get over the Skywrath Mage. No matter how far back he stands. I mean, he's got the Aether Lens. He can stay pretty far back.
I mean, Concussive Shot can hit from like halfway across the map now.
Yeah, and with an Atos, I mean, he can cripple someone in the enemy Fallon. But the thing is, if he gets just barely within range of Snowball, he's dead. So it's almost like he can stare at the Tusk. Tusk stares back, is like, I'm going to get you. And Brock's like, no, 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 no. But he's still going to die.
Yeah.
So there's really nothing he can do about it, aside from hope that his team is strong enough to be able to save his life. But here's the issue, I think, with the Atos, because a 4-staff in this scenario might be enough to get him away alive. But an Atos means he's pretty much, no matter what happens, if the Snowball drops on him, he's gone. So I don't know. I think Keepo just have to sacrifice their Skywrath Mage, put him on the altar. He is the blood sacrifice. He's going to go down. But hopefully, the RNGesus will smile down upon Keepo and bring them victory because of said sacrifice. But it's not likely. Next Roshan.
That was really dark and kind of biblical.
Yeah, kind of. But, yeah, Roshan's pretty much dead. This time, Pain are not going to let him slip out in between their fingers. A giant pig will be roasted right now. So, Keepo. I mean, they can't contest this. They can't even dream about contesting this. There's nowhere close, so they might be able to put some pressure on a Tier 2 top, but Roshan's going to drop a little bit too quickly, and Pain should be able to react to this Tier 2 push within decent time. But the thing is, if they go up to defend the Tier 2, that just buys time for Keepo. So it looks like they will let it take a little bit more damage than I think I'm even comfortable with. But it will not fall. They'll pop the glyph. And just like that, Keepo, they're actually not going to back off. They're going to bait out Kezia for now. This is really, really ambitious. But it might work out for them. King RD, he's going to stalk in his invisibility with the Invis rune, and it looks like, okay, Keepo, yeah, they've scouted out enough to just be a little bit too afraid of the counter initiation.
It's a very tense game now. We're hitting 36 minutes. We're kind of scaling pretty past the mid game into the late game where no one can be out alone. I really favor Pain's lineup in this, but is Slark with his 2 Eye of Scotties big enough to get the job done?
You're joking, right?
I click on the Slark. You wish I was. That doesn't stack, does it?
The passive doesn't. The stats do.
Well, yeah, but it's... I disagree. I think there are a lot of items that would have been very much more useful to get. Just the Abyssal, even, for that lockdown that's desperately needed.
I'm not saying I agree with the item either. I think there's definitely better things he could have gone for. Abyssal is actually a perfect example, but they're going to go in anyway. Looks like he just wants to tank up enough that he can take the tower. And in that respect, yeah, if you look down 5 minutes from now, it does seem to be a valid build path for him because he's got the Aegis. He's impossible to kill, so why not just use this to bully down the tier 3 and become this sort of raid boss status. So in that respect, I could see it being useful. But they have to end the game soon for it to be a valid item choice for him because he's running out of item slots, and at this point he can only really get one item plus Boots of Travel, and he's maxed out unless he wants to get rid of something like the Blink Dagger, which may not be the right choice for him, but hey. Again, though, they do have to just straight push down now, use the Aegis, and we'll see if they can actually get a Rax off this, because they put themselves in a very vulnerable position every single time they push high ground. eKeepo, they just have to bite, or sorry, Pain, they just have to bite the bullet and go for it now, and they'll get up there once again onto the tier 3 tower. 40 are going to take a whole lot of damage, and then back off with the 2 Scotties, allowing them to tank through it, but the Rax still standing, and those are going to be a little bit tougher to bring down in this style of play.
I think Pain desperately want eKeepo to make a mistake and just step too far out of the base. There is going to be a nice ice shards going through. We'll connect on 2, and 40 are just wailing away at the range racks right now.
Yep.
No one really wanting to get in close enough to stop him, because Bronx knows he is a dead man if he steps even an inch too close into the fight. Skywrath Mage getting closer and closer to the Atos, but not quite there yet. Needs about 1,000 more gold.
Well, I stand corrected, because that was a lot easier than the tier 3 tower. And 40R, he might actually get the second set just off of pushing, but I really like how eKeepo are playing this because, as you said, they're not pushing too far ahead. They're not making that dire mistake. They're also keeping the Blink Dagger down, but Bronx, there we go. He steps a little bit too far forward and will get cleaned up. No buyback, and 40R, he just backs off with the Shadow Dance regen, and this is where eKeepo can just straight up take the fight. They'll go in for the Rax first, though, because that seems to be their primary target, but without the Skywrath Mage, there's nothing they can do. I mean, even with it, there was really nothing they could have
MVP
attempted.
siege creep.
What?
Melee top Rex went down to the siege creep.
So?
The siege creep did a good job. Let's give it the respect it deserves.
Gotcha.
That's going to be a full lane of super creeps charging into the top lane, so Radiant always have to focus their resources on that, and we're talking about, aside from Death Prophet's Crypt Swarm, there's not a whole lot of reliable wave clear.
Yeah, and this is a huge trouble that they're running into. The Vladimir's offers them a little bit more of this counter push, but still, they're going to lose their bottom tier 3. Actually, 40R, he's had enough. He just wants to go in. Still has the Aegis Immortality, so he'll get locked in, uses that Aegis right quick. Meanwhile, the Chronosphere catches 2 in the backlines, but they just can't do damage to Jubilee. They cannot bring him down. They need to bring him down. The Exorcism, will it be enough? It's going to chase him. He pops it out just in his last legs, but 40R is able to back it up onto the high ground. Bronx is dead. GIX is also dead, and I think just maybe this might be it, as Bazuri is caught onto the low ground. He does have buyback. GIX has it as well, but even if they pop it, the Exorcism is down, and there's no creep for GIX to Death Pact. Yep, the GG well played will be called 41 minutes into this game. eKeepo held on a whole lot longer than I thought they would after the start they had, and maybe that's going to be enough for them into the game number 2, but that's it for game number 1. I mean, Pain Gaming, they looked strong at the start. They choke out eKeepo in the end. And 40 minutes later, we'll move on to a game 2 where they have the advantage.
I'm excited to see what game 2 holds. Hopefully more Skywrath Mages, but we'll have to see
Hopefully
a lineup
not.
drafted around the Skywrath Mage, because at this point, it felt kind of flimsy. We'll see what exactly goes on in game number 2, because again, best of 3 series, eKeepo are down but not out.
Yeah, and I just want to call to attention really quick. 15-0-11 on Lenaro. Excellent play from this Lina from the mid lane onward. So once again, guys, you're just tuning in. I'm Chicago Ted, casting game number 1. With me was Android. We'll be going to a game 2 really shortly, so don't change that channel. More Sudamerican coming up next.